And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 3 of the Alfa Romeo GTA Championship. We are here at Donington this time for round 3 in the 156 GTA, making its debut this evening. You got to see the post-facelift 156 in the stream graphics there, but we are of course running the pre-facelift car as the GTA variant. About 270 horsepower in this car, and the car weighs about 1.2 tonnes, so it should be a fairly fun car to drive for these drivers, and it's certainly been a very fun car for Alan Matthews to drive, who is on pole, but only by just, really, because he's on pole by about a hundredth of a second from Andrew Whitehead, who's currently running P2 with his now infamous, I imagine, Monza tribute livery, which looks excellent. Always a personal favourite of mine, that livery. And these two are fairly clear of everyone else at the moment by about 0.6 of a second, by just over half a second. They are looking quite comfortable up at the top there. We've yet to see a lap from Matt Daley or Colin Knief. We've got just over 11 minutes to go in this qualifying session, so we'll see if they can get a quick lap in towards the later stages of this qualifying. But for now, it is Alan Matthews who sits on pole position, who is in the pits at the moment. We have Steve Knight improving there, 1 minute 11.5. That takes him 13 fastest. We have quite a few cars on the grid tonight, so it should be quite interesting here at Donington. Obviously a typical British circuit, not the widest. Really have to struggle to find your overtaking spots on the national layout of Donington we are this evening. So we'll go back on board with Andrew Whitehead, who is currently trying to chase down Alan Matthews in terms of timings, although we do have confirmation that Matt Daley is out on track at the moment, and I believe he's just improved his personal best, so he's come onto our time tower there. Yes, he has. He's currently running 6th fastest. Personal best, sector 1 and sector 2 by the looks of things there. Quite interesting actually in terms of strategy. We have Alan Matthews on pole on the medium tyre. I've seen quite a few drivers running the medium tyre in this session so far, so it looks to be that maybe, I don't know whether it's just the compound itself or whether it's the way that this car works the tyre, but the soft tyre perhaps not the best in terms of endurance. I imagine we'll be seeing a lean towards the medium tyre for the racing this evening. For the two races, we have Alan Matthews on pole on the medium tyre, John Cole in 3rd position, also on the medium, followed closely by Matt Daley on the softs with a personal best sector 2 and sector 3. He improved then to go 4th fastest, followed closely by Will Inglis as well. We've got quite a close mid-pack forming up here. Very interesting little rear spoiler on these cars actually. It looked a little bit Need for Speed-esque, if you will. I imagine they are doing something, of course, providing a little bit of downforce for these cars. They look quite interesting, shall we say. Go back on board with Alan Matthews now as he comes out of the pits, ready for his push, what will be one of his final pushes in qualifying, although it is quite a short lap, just over a minute, so you can get quite a few laps in with the just under 10 minutes that we have remaining now, as he looks to get his car ready, get the tyres warmed up, find his rhythm, get ready for a quick push in qualifying, and we go across the line with Alan Matthews now as he gets ready to start his fastest lap attempt. So we head down into turn 1 now with Alan Matthews. Although we try to, and it's not like the camera wants to follow in his hand. It's gone a little bit wrong for him there. We saw him go off onto the grass, go a little bit wide there. We saw that quite a lot of that in last year's running, towards the end of last year's running, both in the 156 and the 75. Yeah, where drivers were just running off at the end of turn 1. It's quite a heavy braking zone there, obviously very easy to get it wrong, and it looks like Alan Matthews has on this occasion got it wrong. So that plays into Andrew Whitehead's hands here as we go on board with him actually. Let's see what he can do. Noticing that his rival is under pressure and making errors under pressure there. Andrew Whitehead is on the soft tyre, so should have the upper hand. He's about 0.8 faster in sector 1 compared to Alan Matthews. That may just be where he feels more comfortable on the circuit, may just be as a result of tyres, although that would be quite a big tyre advantage. Let's see, Alan Matthews heads through sector 2. It's not a personal best for Alan Matthews so far. What would it be for Andrew Whitehead? Not a personal best for Andrew Whitehead either, but he loses out in sector 2 compared to Alan Matthews. So it looks to be that these two are pretty much nip and tuck in terms of competition with each other. But John Cole, in the meantime, is looking fairly racy, although it looks like Matt Daley has just picked him to the post there with 2 personal best sectors. Matt Daley hasn't updated on the other timing system here, but Matt Daley takes their position away from John Cole. What can John Cole do as he comes towards the end of his lap? Now we'll go on board with him as we see him heading towards the final sector, that kink in the back straight that takes you up towards the final corner. Let's see what he can do as he comes towards the end of his lap now. I think he's actually about to cross the line here It's not an improvement for him in sector 2 at 25.1. Still a fairly competitive time though as it comes across the line. What will it be for John Cole? Can he take P3 away from Matt Daley? It doesn't look like he can. No, he can in fact. There was a little bit of a delay there. He does by a 0.3 of a second, and that's brought him much closer to Andrew Whitehead up in front of him. That was a very nice lap from John Cole there. Very nice improvement from there by about half a second, I believe. He's found there, but we'll go back on board with Andrew Whitehead. As you can see, Alan Matthews' current pole position. Currently sitting on pole is Alan Matthews. Let's see what Andrew Whitehead can do behind him. It doesn't look like it's going to be another one there. Steve Knight and Rob Whitney coming together there, just in our view, I believe. And that is not what they want at this point in qualifying. They want to watch out for that type of incident because it does mean that they have to dive back into the pits if there is any substantial damage. I don't believe there will be in these cars, but you never know. See Andrew Whitehead, we saw him in the 75 segment line as well in last year's running. Very aggressively cutting over the pit lane exit there to set up the car, get the car ready for turn 1. And that has probably what is giving him quite a nice gap to Alan Matthews in terms of sector 1 pace time. I can imagine that is a huge contributor into that. Sector 1 is where you can make or break your lap, rather than turn 1 is where you can make or break your lap here at Donington, really. We'll go on board with John Baker. John Baker currently running P12. Although there's Mike Hilton there. Welcome, Mike Hilton. Don't recognise your name just yet, but I'm sure I will in due course. Looking very nice in the second moment at 27.3 as one of the fastest out there. Just ahead of Mr. Will Harper, who doesn't appear to be in line with where he should be on. Yeah, we've got a couple of time systems going, and they have swapped John Baker and Will Harper with each other. I'll go with what the server side is saying instead of what the graphics are telling me, and I will say that Mr. Will Harper is currently in P11. And it doesn't look like there's any change up at the front. It is still Andrew Whitehead tailing behind Alan Matthews, running those medium tyres to get his car on pole. He is looking to be fairly competitive in this race so far, if not on pole position. If he can't pip Andrew Whitehead to pole position, it looks like his car is quite comfortable in terms of race pace, looking like those medium tyres work well for him. Although, play devil's advocate here, is he needing those medium tyres just to get any form of life out of the tyres? Is he needing those medium tyres to make sure that he doesn't destroy his race really? But for whatever happens, what we're going to focus on in the moment is the fact that Andrew Whitehead has just gone purple in sector 1. This could be the lap that makes all the difference. He doesn't have to go electric in sector 2, he just needs to make sure that he can improve just enough in sector 1, and I think he can. Once he places cars right towards the end of the lap, he's a couple of tenths quicker than Alan Matthews so far in sector 1. 27 flat for Andrew Whitehead as we head into the final braking zone, final part of the lap now. He's near enough side by side with Steve Knight. Will that traffic affect his lap? Let's find out as we cross the line with Andrew Whitehead. Will he improve? I can't quite work out yet. Let's find out in just a second. Under braking, they're taking the position from Steve Knight, but we still don't have an update on whether or not he has improved from his previous attempt. I don't think he has. He hasn't, unfortunately. His double attempt is slower there by the looks of things, and that, I imagine that is pure frustration for Andrew Whitehead at this point in time. So such an excellent sector 1 there. To see it all come undone towards the end of the lap. Running those soft tyres, maybe the soft tyres not capable of getting the car to the end of the lap in any form of decent condition perhaps. But we will find out in the final few minutes of qualifying now. The drivers will be getting ready for their final push for their best lap attempt for this evening. As we go on board with Matt Daley. Matt Daley has been fairly quiet after doing his usual of showing up and putting in a very nice lap. But he has been fairly quiet so far. He's gone purple in sector 1. He's beaten Andrew Whitehead just about, and he does beat John Cole to P3. He's on, he's a little bit higher up on the second row now, just overtaking some of the braking there. But I imagine it's not quite the gains that he would have wanted. He's still within a tenth of Alan Matthews, so the top of the order looking very close indeed for this race. It looks like we're going to be quite an exciting evening here at Donington. Not the lap, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure that he would have thought that was pole, because it was purple best sector 2 and sector 3 and purple sector 1. Obviously sector 3 is tiny here at Donington, but every little helps, certainly. But yes, I am sure Matt Daley, knowing that he has the pace underneath him, will be getting ready for what will be his very last attempt now to try and take pole position away from both Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews here, because both are certainly in play for pole. but it looks like Alan Matthews has responded. Sector 2 was a little bit off the pace for him, really, although still quicker than Andrew Whitehead's previous attempt. But he's whacked the softs on and has gone purple sector 1, 27.02. Will it be enough to build that gap just a little bit more as he comes across the line now? I think it is not. No, he's still a couple of attempts slower than his previous best attempt. A 1:08.3 on the medium, which is a very impressive lap quite early on. Unfortunately, we did miss it. A couple of technical issues. We've got new internet connection for the stream. Well, not just for the stream, it was so I can actually use my phone without having the internet drop off. But hopefully, should see a little bit of a boost in quality for yourselves watching tonight, as we see Alan Matthews riding over the curbs, over the grass, using that 270 horsepower to get past John Baker now. As we see him coming to the end of what will be an abandoned lap, I can imagine. But he's got a couple of minutes left. He wants to try and bring the tyres back into a decent window if he can. I think he'll be able to. He's got a couple more laps to get ready for one last push. I've said one last push and I've said one final push quite a lot in this qualifying session because it's been fairly intense. A second covers the top 7, and then beyond that, about 2 seconds covers the top 11, so it's quite a close qualifying session here tonight. Looks like we are missing Colin Knief this evening, which is a great shame. I'm sure he will be revelling in that battle up at the front of the order there, but nonetheless we're getting ready for what will be quite an I'm sure it'll be quite an enjoyable evening. John Baker then leading, or is on pole for the AM race at the time being. He is clear from Guy Swarbrick by about 7/10 of a second on the medium tyre as well, so he's looking fairly comfortable compared to Guy on the softs, who is, I believe, a few tenths. Yeah, he's just about a tenth ahead of Paul Milner, so that will be a battle to watch out for in the AM running in just a few moments' time. We're getting ready for this race now, and I am certainly excited. As Kenny tell, it's been a couple of weeks since I've commentated. I've missed it, so I'm all excited to get ready for the cars on the grid, and we are going to be in for quite a pleasant race, I can imagine. These cars at Donington will be very enjoyable to watch indeed. See someone going off there in the distance. Who is that? I can't quite work out who that is. They're in front of Alan Matthews, who still holds pole position by just a hair, really. It is absolutely minuscule, that gap between him and Andrew Whitehead. Only 1/100th of a second, but it looks like we have a little bit of server lag, possibly. Not quite sure. I don't think we have. I think we're all right. See cars kind of hovering about there. Might be my end. Hopefully not. As it looks like Andrew Whitehead a little bit off the pace in sector 1 once again. Can he claw it back? I imagine he's going to struggle to claw it back from this much of a deficit there. But we see Mr. Will Harper improving there to go into the 109s there, about a second behind pole position for the time being. And it looks to be that Alan Matthews is going to be fairly safe on pole, unless John Cole on the medium tyres can claw it back and bring it back towards himself. 27.0, only 200ths of a second slower than the purple for sector 1. Let's see what he can do as he heads through sector 2 now. He's got a 52.3 to beat. What can he do here? Let's find out. 52.2, it's another improvement for John Cole. 52.2 in this lap so far, of course. Another improvement for him there. Still looking to improve this lap. Then let's see what he can do as he enters the final corner now. Unfortunately, we can't see John Cole, but as he comes across the line, what will it be? It will be... oh dear. Muddled my words there after John Cole muddled sector 3 by the looks of things, losing out just a little bit there. A 1:08.5. That is an absolutely blistering lap from Alan Matthews by the looks of things. That couple of tenths clear. It seems to be everyone's getting a little bit stuck on a 1:08.5 barrier here at Donington this evening. So well done to Alan for a well-deserved pole position. That puts him in good stead for the race coming up, I would say, on the medium tyres as well. He can be feeling fairly confident going into this, but with such a tight margin, he's certainly going to have to work for it. Andrew Whitehead so very close on the front row with him there. Matt Daley in P3 and Colin Knief in P4 lining up on the second row, also very close behind in terms of pace. Will Harper finding a nice bit of pace at the end there, and John Baker will be on pole for the AM race this evening as we enter race 1. So that is it from qualifying. I'll see you in just a few moments' time when we get ready for race 1 here at Donington. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the grid for race 1. We are here at Donington for this evening's racing in the debut for the 156 GTA car, the pre-facelift. As I mentioned in qualifying, of course, we showed the post-facelift in the scrim graphics. Don't worry about it, it's fine, it's a 156. Hopefully it didn't annoy too many people by saying 156 is 156, of course, many differences. But it is Alan Matthews who lines up on pole position, followed closely behind by just 1/100th of a second by Andrew Whitehead. It is then Matt Daley in P3, John Cole in P4, and I will have to double check who P5 is because I've forgotten. Apologies. It is Mr. Will Harper in P5, but that doesn't matter for now. What matters is we are ready, engines revving with 6 red lights on the gantry, and in just a moment's time, we are away. Tyre smoke billowing out of everyone's car as they try to get off the line. It is Alan Matthews who gets a very good launch there. Andrew White actually loses out on the launch a little bit too. Both John Cole and Matt Daley now down into P5, I think, for Andrew Whitehead there. But Alan Matthews just walks away. Yes, P5 for Andrew Whitehead at the moment. Matt Daley up into P2, trading places with John Cole. John Cole now under pressure from Will Inglis, very closely behind. And who is that? 3 wide here. Turn 2, that is very brave here. Obviously, Sector 2, a very tricky part of the circuit to follow on here at Donington. But these drivers navigating it well. There's Alan Matthews who still leads by about half a second at the moment from Matt Daley. Matt Daley about half a second clear of everyone else for the time being. No one pushing each other too much, too extremely rather for the time being. It is Andrew Brammer, I believe, there, who is in P6 at the moment, under pressure from Andrew Harvey in the Gulf livery-inspired 156 there. But it is Mike Hilton who's trading places with Mr. Will Harper. Will Harper not getting the best launch at the start of this race, then he's dropped down to P9 from P5, so I'm sure he'll be trying to find a way to climb his way back up through the order. As we see, I believe that is Rosie Hodgson losing out to a couple of cars there, including Jack Hodgson and John Baker there. Trading blows, all 3 of them switching around. Rosie Hodgson back up into P15 all of a sudden. John Baker now down into P16. John Baker now under pressure from Steve Knight. Steve Knight carrying a lot more speed through the final corner there. Now side by side with John Baker, and it is John Cole who gets ahead of Matt Daley as these two are now side by side. There's a big collision there, involves Guy Swarbrick and I believe Mr. Will Harper pointing backwards on the circuit now, as well as Guy Swarbrick potentially. Yes, these two having quite a nasty impact or getting involved in a fairly substantial crash there, losing out heavily, so they are going to be, I'm sure, quite frustrated with that and probably setting their sights on the reverse grid race coming up in about 25 minutes time. What a shame to see their race become undone so early like that, but I'm sure they'll treat it as a little bit of practice and maybe get to battle each other as well as we go on board with Alan Matthews, who is leading by nearly a second now. Matt Daley and John Cole getting involved in on battle and slow them down ever so slightly. But Alan Matthews will be hoping that they do more of that so that he can just walk away and have a nice, quiet, comfortable race and get a big haul of points. That's exactly what he wants to do. As we see John Cole getting a little bit closer actually, under pressure from Matt Daley, perhaps just pushing him towards the car in front, about 0.4 of a second quicker on that previous lap compared to the car in front of him. As we see Andrew White looking to climb his way back up through the order. He's made a position already, got past Will Inglis, now up into P4, and perhaps he's setting his sights on Matt Daley up in front. Keeping John Cole as a bit of a buffer for him really. Both Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews hoping that John Cole can be a little bit of a stop, a little bit of a buffer to Matt Daley because it benefits both of their races. But it looks like John Cole's not going to be doing that. John Cole is instead going to be thinking about an overtake on Alan Matthews there. Looking to move around the outside potentially. He has a little bit of a switchback there, near enough 3 wide there. John Cole just further enough ahead from Matt Daley for him to be less of a concern. Matt Daley near enough trading paint with Andrew Whitehead there as they head through that apex. Andrew Whitehead now actually finds himself up into P3, so he's had a nice little recovery drive there to find himself back up in 3rd position. Yes, he can be fairly happy with that one, getting past Matt Daley there. It's nowhere particularly easy to overtake. Nowhere is at all, I'd say, more difficult to overtake than Donington, really, that we go to. There's somewhere that I'm probably forgetting, but yes, very nice move from Andrew Whitehead to get that move done on Matt Daley up into P3 now, and it looks like these top 4 are starting to break away from the rest of the pack a little bit. Matt Daley perhaps struggling with the pace of the car, obviously not getting that much practice in qualifying, and I can tell you that the tyres that he is running, he is indeed running the medium tyres. In fact, we have, I believe, everyone running the medium tyres in this evening's racing, so obviously that soft tyre is not viable beyond qualifying even, and in the case of Alan Matthews, plenty the medium is plenty for qualifying. So we see that Alan Matthews is about half a second ahead of John Cole. Both of them running the lights. Obviously not too bothered by the impact that the extra load on the alternator may have on the engine. I certainly am at the moment. My Miso QV has decided to grenade its alternator, so it needs a bit of a charge before I pop to the shops every now and again. But it's fine for that for the time being. It just means like a bit of a workout with no power steering. But it looks like John Cole is trying to give Alan Matthews' rear bumper a little bit of workout as they nearly make contact there. In fact, they do just about trade some paint there, and they're near enough side by side now as we head down the start-finish straight. Andrew Wyatt fancies his chances as well, wants to get involved in that, and they are near enough 3 wide. Andrew Wyatt from here can't try his fancy line into turn 1, but there's big contact. There's big contact from Alan Matthews and Andrew Wyatt. I don't think he expected to see him there, but luckily able to carry on. Didn't get chucked off the circuit for that, but Alan Matthews loses out big time down the start-finish straight. Now down into P3. Matt Daley gets past Willingcliff once more up into P4, but he's still fighting with them. They're near enough side by side. Willingcliff locked down so slightly by Alan Matthews' car, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time for Willingcliff there. That is now Alan Matthews. It's still in P3, but losing out big time to John Cole. John Cole now finding himself leading this race by nearly a second. He has benefited hugely from the argy-bargy going on down the start-finish straight. And Andrew Whitehead back up into P2 where he started this race. And can he catch up to John Cole in front and take the lead of this race? That's what he wants to do. That's what he feels like he can do with that pace that he demonstrated in qualifying. Can't believe we're only 5 minutes into this race. It's been so action-packed already. Let's hope that the rest goes the same way. But in terms of on-track battles then, it is these top 4 who are closest, who are battling each other tooth and nail. But let's not forget about what's going on elsewhere. We have Rosie Hodson and Barry Clayton, who are very close indeed as they come towards the end of that lap now. Near enough side by side. It looks like Barry Clayton's going to dip in behind Rosie Hodson. Going to dip in behind Rosie Hodson there, and maybe try and get her on the entry to turn 1 perhaps. Trying to follow the car behind, use a little bit of a slipstream advantage, although it won't be too much in these 270 horsepower saloon cars. And he's still not as close as he would like to be in order to catch up to him. Usually we'd see Barry Clayton a little bit higher up the order, so I'm not sure what's gone on there. Well, something like that might have gone on, a collision between the two by the looks of things, as Rosie Hodson tries to rejoin, just about avoids Steve Knight there. Mr. Will Harper doing a very good job to be up into P13 already. He's made a few positions back, might find himself in the point scoring positions if he plays his cards right. But it is Andrew Whitehead who's still putting pressure on John Cole up on the top of the field then. Less than half a second separating the two drivers as we enter the final part of the lap here, the penultimate corner, with these two riding over the curbs, wheels bouncing up into the air. Matt Daley under braking then gets the move done on Alan Matthews up into P3. It's all gone a bit wrong for Alan Matthews in the previous couple of laps. Now he's under pressure from Willing Bliss. Looks like Willing Bliss is gaining slightly. Andrew Whitehead sets the fastest lap of the race so far in his hunting down of John Cole. Under braking in on the inside there. Willing Bliss takes the position back, but there's going to be a switchback from Alan Matthews, squeezing him out as much as he dares there. Andrew Harvey's now involved in this fight as well, but it's Alan Matthews up into P4 once again. Can Andrew Harvey get past Willing Bliss and put a stopper on him trying to hunt down the previous race leader, Alan Matthews? It's still John Cole leading this race by about half a second, but for how long will that be? You never know in this race. It is Matt Daley who will find himself rounding out the podium there in a nice little bit of open clean air, if you will. Riding over the gravel, that won't help his help his cause too much, rather. That brings Alan Matthews ever so slightly closer to him once again, now within a second of him. Building that gap just a little bit now as they head into sector 3, and it looks like Willing Bliss has got it a little bit wrong there, riding onto the grass, going wide. They're trying to carry too much speed into the corners, making these medium tyres. Still not particularly happy, still not great in terms of life for these drivers, and they're just not expecting a lack of grip heading into the corners, but it is now Andrew Harvey up into P5, and it looks like Andrew Whitehead using his special line over the pit exit there, trying to take the P1 away from John Cole, now only within 2 seconds, 2 tenths rather. I'll try that again. Now very close to John Cole indeed, but John Cole able to break away in sector 2 by the looks of things. We saw it in qualifying that sector 2 didn't look to be Andrew Whitehead's particular favourite part of the circuit. Sector 1 seems to be where he made most of his gains, and that looks like it could be what we're seeing here now. John Cole breaking away from Andrew behind him just a little bit now. Yes, looking fairly comfortable in the lead of this race so far. Had a few minutes out in the lead and has been able to keep Andrew Whitehead at bay. You never know when one small error, one tiny little mistake can crop up and absolutely ruin your race. It has happened for Alan Matthews, although he is not doing too badly at all. It has happened for Guy Swarbrick, and it has happened for Mr. Will Harper, who's now still in P13, hoping to climb his way back into the point-scoring positions. But in terms of the AM race, while we talk about Will Harper and those around him, like John Baker, who was on pole for the AM qualifying, I would like to tell you who is leading the AM race, but unfortunately we've had a little bit of a glitch with the time system. It's now back. It is Jack Hodson, apologies there, leading this AM race at the moment. Oh no, it's not. Apologies, Paul and Jack. It is Paul leading this AM race at the moment in P9. It is Paul Millman leading the AM race at the moment, and this will be a nice haul of points for him here. He's been doing very well battling it with the likes of Guy Swarbrick and John Baker, and this might be his chance for victory this evening and to take a good haul of points away for the AM Championship. But Matt Daley is currently on for a blistering lap. He's just gone purple sector 1, a 27 flat, even with a relatively heavy load of fuel in the tank. So he is obviously finding his groove in this car and could maybe think about pushing towards the higher positions. Already on the podium, but might be thinking about P2, possibly even a victory. You never know. They're only a couple of seconds up the road, and anything can happen with 15 minutes to go in this race. As we see Barry Clayton having to pit there. This has been a race to forget for Barry Clayton. Really, we know he's capable of so much more, and unfortunately something happening there, forcing him into the pits. As we see Andrew White trying to get ever closer to John Cole here. The gap is about 0.6 of a second. Let's see how that changes as we head through Sector 1. Is this where his Sector 1 advantage comes into play? It doesn't look like it necessarily on this lap. Staying about the same 0.6, 0.7 even at some point, but with a glitch back up past Andrew Harvey. As it looks like there was a little bit of contact between the two drivers, actually both able to carry on. Luckily it wasn't major. The assistant recorded it at 2 miles an hour, which when you're travelling at speeds of about 120, 130 at some points, isn't too much to worry about really. But yes, obviously drivers trying everything really to get past each other in this race so far. Donington not the easiest place to ever take it, and both drivers running a little bit wide there. Andrew Harvey running wider than most, having to go over the gravel there, and that brings him into the jaws of Mike Hilton. As we see, Matt Daley has got past Andrew Whitehead. What's happened for Andrew there? Maybe an error. It must be an error there. Looking not the quickest on track at the moment. Nearly cut off Alan Matthews heading into the penultimate corner there. Just about gets away with it. Both of those rivals luckily able to carry on there, but it is not good the lap to remember for Andrew Whitehead. I promise it's not the race. I promise it's just been a long week with University and Alfa Romeos having to look after a couple of Mitos. It's never an easy task. But yes, it is Andrew Whitehead then struggling by the looks of things in this race all of a sudden. Now followed closely behind by Alan Matthews. We've seen these two battle it out in qualifying. It looks like we're going to see them battle it out once again, but for P3 and P4, which is not what these two were expecting to imagine when they lined up on the front row. John Cole still leading then. That lead looking even more comfortable, but for how long is it a bit more comfortable? Because Matt Daley, who we've seen is posting purple sector after purple sector, is the one behind him now. About 2 seconds at the moment, so that gap hasn't shrunk as much as we might have seen it, but he was about 0.4 of a second quicker on the previous lap when compared to John Cole. So this battle will be hotting up in the next couple of laps. That gap then shrinking ever so slightly. To see Alan Matthews actually set a purple sector 2 behind Andrew Whitehead on that previous lap. His last lap was still just a little bit slower than Andrew Whitehead though by about 0.2. Andrew Whitehead in that 108.3 magic zone that we saw was the all-important time in qualifying. Unfortunately for Andrew, he's been able to post that in the race. Not what he wanted to though, I am sure. It is Andrew Whitehead who currently holds the fastest lap of the race so far. Matt Daley now starting to close that gap down. It now stands at about a second. Everyone's top speed near enough identical in these speed traps, about 131.1 miles an hour. We'll see a couple of drivers just that little bit slower. Alan Matthews, Willie Bliss, about 130. And then in fact we have the likes of Mike Hilton and possibly even Rosie Hodson, Steve Knight, perhaps carrying a little bit more aero on their cars than others, and about 127 and 128 miles an hour, but that is not what we're going to focus on now. We're going to focus on the fact that Matt Daley is getting ever closer to John Cole up in front of him, nearly a second, in fact over a second quicker on that previous lap. John Cole might have worked his size a little bit too hard to try and build this lead, to try and defend and keep this lead that he took off Alan Matthews earlier in the race. With just over 10 minutes to go, perhaps his tyres starting to struggle. Those medium tyres not looking like they have the biggest lifespan out there on track. And Matt Daley might have just preserved them a little bit more, although he has been kind of involved in battling for most of this race. Now only about 0.2 of a second separating as we head through Sector 2. Around the outside, is he going to think about a move? He might think about a move around the outside of this corner, but thinks better of it. Backs off just a little bit. He knows this is not the easiest part of the track to overtake on. Near enough side by side as we get ready for the back straight now, but John Cole defends nicely. There's contact between the two drivers there by the looks of things, but they're able to carry on. There was, in fact, contact. John Cole's rear wing not looking particularly happy, although I imagine if it's only bumper damage, it won't be any ill effects. These cars don't seem to have any form of diffuser at all, so it shouldn't hurt him too badly. But he's putting in, I imagine, the defensive drive of his life now, trying to defend this victory, because this is the overtake that matters for Matt Daley. Plenty of them have mattered. They've all been very important overtakes, but this is the one for the lead of this race. His title rival Colin Keith not here this evening, and this is his chance to break away from him ever so slightly in the standings if he can help it. But let's see what John Cole does now in Sector 1. In comparison to Matt Daley, we haven't focused much on what Matt Daley can do through Sector 1. Now is the perfect opportunity to do so. As we look at the previous lap then, Matt Daley was about 0.6 of a second faster through Sector 1 compared to John Cole. About even in Sector 2 and ever so slightly quicker in Sector 3 as well. And Matt Daley goes past John Cole. What's happened to John Cole there? I think he's gone off. Oh, no, he hasn't gone off. The camera's looked a bit weird there. There's contact between the two though as Matt Daley goes up the inside there. I don't think John Cole's quite expecting him to still be there. And turned in ever so slightly. And yeah, a little bit of contact. No major ill effects though. But what that has done is slowed up John Cole and Matt Daley, both of them. Andrew Whitehead's now back in the fight up into P3 ahead of Alan Matthews now. Fantastic successfully getting past John Cole perhaps. Only about 0.3 of a second behind. He can still climb his way up the podium if he wants to. Obviously a little bit faster than Andrew Whitehead in terms of pace on track at the moment. John Cole's previous lap at 1 minute 10.2, one of the slowest cars on the track at the time being. So not the type of lap that he wants to be setting right now if he fancies this victory still. In fact, even if he wants to keep P2, it's looking a little bit apprehensive for him at the moment. But this top four that I mentioned in qualifying are the ones that have broke away from the rest of the field and have put in a stellar job in this race so far. There's been a little bit of contact, there's been plenty of overtaking, which is a good thing, but yes, still at this stage in the race, following each other like a train, these four cars at the front of the field. As we see now, Andrew Whitehead looking for a way past John Cole, who is doing an almighty defensive job there, positioning the car in just the right place to make sure that on this already narrow circuit, Andrew Whitehead can't find a little bit of tarmac that he can use to get past, that he can use to dive down under braking. He is trying everything in the defensive playbook to make sure that he keeps that P2 for the time being. And just in this defensive drive, we've seen that Matt Daley has broke away from John Cole ever so slightly now nearly a second after separating the two cars as they both head down the start-finish straight. But this is really the battle for the ages indeed. Four-way at this stage in the race. It is very impressive job indeed from all of these drivers involved, and these are the closest cars on track at the moment. As we see, that was a little bit better for John Cole on their previous lap, so he's kicked the car into high gear now, really pushing himself now to make sure he keeps that P2. Previous lap at 108.7, only a couple of tenths off Matt Daley up in front, and more importantly quicker than Andrew Whitehead, which keeps him at bay for the time being. As we see, Barry Clayton's had a little bit of an error there. In fact, I think he's struggling with the car in general this evening, or this race has just not gone his way. About 5 laps down and another accident. As we see Guy Swarbrick and who is that is Rosie Hodson trading positions there. Guy Swarbrick up into P15 after that unfortunate incident earlier on. They are side by side though as we head into the penultimate corner. Who's going to come out on top here? It looks like Guy Swarbrick takes the inside line and is able to box off Rosie Hodson, but for how long? Rosie potentially getting the better exit out of the last corner. Will she? Let's find out. She's got the slipstream here, the not too powerful slipstream, I believe, with 270 horsepower on tap in these 156 GT8 pre-facelift. Very important to note that, because as it looks like Guy Swarbrick rather is going to keep that position for the moment, about 4 tenths clear of Rosie Hodson behind. Train then still carrying on, getting ready to encounter some lapped traffic for the first time this evening, apart from Barry Clayton, who obviously lost a couple of laps in the pits earlier on. As we we see now only a second separating the top three, as Andrew White once again gets ever closer to John Cole, back into that 0.2 of a second zone here, looking for a way past. Potentially thinking about that inside line there on that curve. I've seen overtakes done before, but you have to be very brave. You have to be very certain that you're going to get them done. Looks like Rosie Hodgson struggling with the car, potentially falls off the circuit there, allows these four cars to get through and rejoin in a safe manner, which is nice to see. But under braking then, flames spitting out of the 156. I believe these are the 2-litre twin spark. Correct me if I am wrong, guys, but these are the 2-litre twin spark powered cars, I believe. They're running 270 horsepower or plenty of turbocharge. I'm not too sure. There wasn't too much technical information available at this point in the evening, but I'm sure we'll have more in the coming weeks. But Andrew White is perilously close to the rear bumper of John Cole now. We've just got over 5 minutes in this race to go now, but it is still looking like Matt Daley's for the taking at this time being, because these three are battling it out for the 2 spots on the podium here, as it looks like John Cole picks up a little bit of dust. Maybe that was Matt Daley out in front, but that is exactly what Andrew White wants to see. He wants to see that he's starting to pressure John Cole, starting to make him struggle and starting to potentially force an error, as you see the car bumping over the curbs there, and Matt Daley encounters his first bit of lap traffic for this race. Gets past him with ease, as we see John Cole flashing to try and find a way past Guy Swarbrick. Of course, there is no obligation for drivers to move out of the way, lack traffic to move out of the way in this series. No blue flags are used at all, but it is very nice to see Guy Swarbrick there very graciously getting out of the way at the penultimate corner, slowing down at quite a rate really, to allow these four to get through and carry on their battle. Very nice to see that there. That actually brings him back in, and that might be on purpose, because it allows him to have a bit more of an enjoyable battle with Rosie Hodgson, who it looks like these two have been enjoying a battle with each other for quite a while in this race, and that looks like it could continue until the end. So hopefully we will see some exciting manoeuvres performed in that then, as we see John Cole still not able to get past this half a second barrier between him and Matt Daley. Matt Daley obviously held up by the lap traffic a little bit more than John expects, I imagine, because John thought he was held up but was able to carry on, and there's contact between Alan Matthews and Andrew Whitehead. Oh dear, looks like they just tagged each other heading through the corner there. That dips Andrew Whitehead down into 4th position. It slows him down fairly substantially. Now they're about to be we see Guy Swarbrick unlapping himself there. Big error for Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews there. What a shame to see their race come undone at such a pivotal time. There's about 3 minutes to go. The top two still battling it out, but they could have had an error. It could have had some type of contact that meant that they were able to get back past P3 and P4, but a big error for Alan Matthews and Andrew Whitehead. Sees Andrew Whitehead lose a position there, and more importantly lose some time and some position on track. What a shame to see their race become undone like this as they get back past the lap traffic now. Andrew Whitehead now back ahead of Alan Matthews there, as it looks like Alan Matthews potentially struggling with the car perhaps. Willing Bliss now ahead of Alan Matthews as well. So this race really has come undone for him, all within the space of a lap, as Andrew Whitehead defending his position from Willing Bliss now. As we see Andrew Harvey involved in quite a battle with Mike Hilton behind him there, as they are near enough side by side, as we will go on board with them, or attempt to go on board with them if the camera would like to follow them. That would be very kind of you, Mr. Cameron, thank you. As we see they are side by side, Mike Hilton taking the inside line there, but having to scrub off a little bit of speed as a result of that. But Andrew Harvey gets it a little bit wrong on the exit and rides onto the gravel, and that brings Mike Hilton right back into contention, right back on the rear bumper of Andrew Harvey's car there. So it's still anyone's game really in terms of P6 at the moment. It is Paul Millman still leading the AmRace. He's been leading relatively quietly, relatively unchallenged actually. Obviously involved in some battles regardless, but not for the AmRace. Everyone else in the AmRace having a few difficulties in race 1 this evening, and as a result he has had quite a comfortable lead in this race so far, and that looks to be further secure, so well done to him for that. As we see Mike Hilton getting past Andrew Harvey now as we head through turn 1, and by quite a margin as well. He's looking quite comfortable there all of a sudden, but that margin has closed down by the looks of things. We head through sector 2 now, as we see that seems like an oddly high speed trap speed there. I'm not quite sure I believe that one. We'll ignore it. I think these cars have about top speeds of about 230 kilometers an hour, I believe. So 250 250 miles an hour would seem odd, but 150 certainly seems odd as well, as they make contact again at the same place where Andrew Harvey had a little bit of an error. They make contact this time. Andrew Harvey potentially looking at a move past Mike Hilton, but it wasn't to be on this occasion, unfortunately for him. And there's now a pack of cars heading through the penultimate corner. Unfortunately for Andrew Wyatt, he is about 10 seconds off the cars that he was battling with just a couple of laps ago, and John Cole seems to be slowly backing off from Matt Daley. He's about half a second a lap slower on the previous lap. Matt Daley currently the only car lapping in the 108s, apart from Alan Matthews, who is in the 108.9s. So those two are the only ones near qualifying pace at the moment, as the fuel loads get light, but obviously these tyres starting to wear out as well. With 37-degree track temperature, it is going to put quite a bit of load through these tyres as Andrew Harvey finds his way back past Mike Hilton once again. We've got 5 seconds left on the timer, as I believe there's been quite a collision between John Cole and Steve Knight. Let's see if that affects his race at all. It doesn't look like it will, luckily for him. He's still a little bit further back from Matt Daley than he would like to be, but Alan Matthews getting back past Will Inglis, although they are trading positions by the looks of things. Andrew Wyatt seems to have, can't quite work out if he's dropped back or these two have caught up, but Will Inglis at the very last, I say very last, it's the penultimate lap now, takes P4 away from Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews from pole finds himself down in P5. It's been a race to forget for him. I am sure he'll be focusing his efforts on the reverse grid race coming up in just a moment's time now. As we see him riding over the curb in the penultimate corner, then we're going to go on board with Matt Daley as he heads through Donington for one last time in race 1. Mr. Will Harper up in P10, then he's made a very nice recovery, getting past Paul Millman now from that earlier incident. The camera not quite wanting to follow us with much urgency, but we are still able to see these beautiful looking 156 GTAs navigating Donington in what has been a very interesting race indeed. Only a couple of tenths separating Alan Matthews and Will Inglis even at this late stage in the race, but we're going to have to go on board with Matt Daley at some point as he comes across the line now, but it is still Alan Matthews behind there, as it looks like Will Inglis has perhaps lost out on that position. No, Alan Matthews got a little bit messy on the braking by the looks of things and had to take quite a wide line to make sure he made it through the corner and has dropped off from the back of Will Inglis as a result of that. But Mike Hilton still battling it out with Andrew Harvey, as we see Matt Daley come across the line to take the race 1 victory for his way from the second row on the grid, and executed some brilliant racecraft there. Sets the fastest lap of the race as well. I want to wait flat. I believe that would be quicker than pole in qualifying as well, so he's feeling very confident here at Donington in this car now. Takes P1 in race 1. Well done to Matt Daley for that. John Cole P2, a very nice drive there. Had it in P3 in qualifying, so still can be fairly happy with this race. Commiserations to Andrew Wyatt for losing out down into P3 there, but once again, not too much is lost. Still on the podium, Will Inglis driving his way up to P4. Very nice race from Will Inglis, and commiserations to Alan Matthews, really starting on pole, and just a unfortunate couple of incidents there, seeing him in P5. A very nice battle between Andrew Harvey and Mike Hilton ends with Andrew Harvey taking P6, Mike Hilton in P7, Andrew Brown at P8, Rob Whitney P9, Mr. Will Harper P10, and Paul Millman takes the AM race victory. John Baker takes P2 and Jack Hobson P3. Steve Knight P14, Rosie Hodgson P15, Guy Swarbrick P16, and Byron Clayton with a couple of difficulties takes P17. Will we see some victory donuts from Matt Daley? Let's find out before we jump to the interval, getting ready for race 2. I'm not sure if we will. I'm sure he's going to bring the car back and set his sights on race 2 rather. That looks to be what he is doing. So with that being the case, I say thank you very much for joining us for race 1, which was certainly an exciting race, and we get ready for race 2 coming up in just a moment's time. Certainly don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the action here at Donington Park for race 2. We are here at the reverse grid event with Barry Clayton sitting on pole, Rob Whitney in P2 on the soft tyre, interestingly. Mike Hilton in P3, Andrew Harvey on the soft as well in P4, Alan Matthews P5, Will Inglis P6, Andrew Wyatt P7, John Cole P8, Matt Daley P9, Guy Swarbrick P10, Rosie Hodson P11, Steve Knight P12, Jack Hodson P13, John Baker P14, Paul Millman P15 and Mr. Will Harper P16 apparently. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct, but it might just be because I think he had to rejoin the session. But never mind, because he's actually on P2 by the looks of things there, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure what is going on with the grid ordering there, but it is 6 red lights on the gantry. And in just a moment's time, we will be away and we are off. Tyre smoke once again pluming up as we see Barry Clayton. Is he retiring from the event? I think he might be retiring from the event, maybe not feeling confident, not feeling like he has the practice enough. But nonetheless, we're going to carry on as it is. Rob Whitney now leading this race with Andrew Harvey following closely behind in P2 as we seem to have a bit of contact there for Will Inglis. And who else is that? I believe that is Jack Hodson. It is. Alan Matthews losing out there as well, P6 at the moment, but he's climbed his way up the field nicely nonetheless. John Cole P5, Matt Daley P4, so Matt Daley looking to be in quite a comfortable position for this race already. Only a few corners into the 25-minute race and always finds himself up onto the podium, so he has done a nice job there, as it is still Andrew Harvey leading this race for the moment then, but for how long with Matt Daley up into P2 already, battling it out with John Cole, just like in race 1 these two battling out, but this time it is at the start of what has been a mixed grid race, as we see Will Harper up into P4. The start of this race so far has been a lot better than the start of the previous race for him. Let's see if that momentum can continue, but he's under pressure from Andrew Whitehead and Rob Whitney behind as well. Andrew Whitehead looking like he's trying to find his way past there as we head down the start finish straight, and there seems to be is that Mike Hilton who's had to dive into the pits? He hasn't had to dive into the pits, he's span off and looked like he was going to the pits, but seems to have recovered the car somewhat there. No, he has actually pitted, unfortunately, for Mike then. Not a race to remember for him, not the way he would have wanted this race to have gone, especially for it to go so wrong so early on for him there. But the fuel tanks brimmed once again, the tyres, a new set of boots put on all the cars, so let's see how the pace develops in this reverse grid race as we see the fast drivers potentially trying to side the way up through the order as we try to see try to give all the drivers an opportunity to find a spot on the podium, find a higher point scoring position, as it looks to be that Andrew White is certainly trying to find a way past there, looking up the outside there. But we know that Will Harper certainly knows his way round a circuit there and knows how to defend, and I imagine will defend quite aggressively from Andrew Wyatt here as we see looks like he's going around the outside potentially. Will he get it done on the braking? No, I don't think he can get it done on the braking there, to be honest. Penultimate corner. Big contact between Alan Matthews and Will Inglis there. What a shame for them. That's going to push them down the order in this race somewhat. Not the way they wanted this race to go at all, I am sure. Now further down the order, Will Inglis losing out quite substantially there, down into P12 under pressure from Steve Knight and Jack Hodson. I think they are both going to get past. In fact, they are down into P13 for Will Inglis then. I think it was a little bit better for Alan Matthews, but not by much. Only P11 for Alan Matthews then. As we see Matt Daley now within a second of Andrew Harvey, so starting to put that pressure on and dragging John Cole and Andrew Whitehead with him. So they are missing one, but there's going to be a trio of race 1's leaders as they get ready to battle it out once again for 20 minutes here at Donington. As Will Inglis gets past Steve Knight up into P11 now for Will Inglis, Alan Matthews in P10. So these guys are going to be battling in the same way that they were in race 1, but unfortunately for them it's going to be all the way down in P10 as we see Guy Swarbrick and Rosie Hodson trying to enjoy their own battling there. Alan Matthews now joins in on the fun as well as we see Rosie Hodson leading this little pack then, but for how long Guy Swarbrick looking for a way past, as is Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews setting himself up nicely for the upcoming corner. Will he get moved on the braking? I don't think it. Oh, he will on the braking. Alan Matthews takes the position from Rosie Hodson. Rosie Hodson and Guy Swarbrick actually make a little bit of contact there. I think that was purely accidental. but that spins Guy's rubbic out a little bit, but Rosie very graciously waits for Guy to carry on. Anyway, as we see, there's actually quite a battle building it up down in P10 down to P15, really. Quite a battle is forming between all of these cars now. As we see, Matt Daley is soon to be passed. Andrew Harby, by the looks of things, got the inside line here, but still able to defend is Andrew Harby, and all of this battling has allowed John Cole to catch right up. It is actually John Cole who's now in P2. A beautiful move on Matt Daley, sees him up into P2 there. Will he now start to put the pressure on Andrew Harby? Let's find out as we head down the straight now. It is once again a four-way battle for the lead of this race, as we see Barry Clayton in the distance up in front there. All the cars riding over the curbs and onto the start finish straight for these four drivers now. John Cole about 0.2 of a second slower, 0.2 of a second off Andrew Harby at this point in time. But for how long? So Matt Daley trying to take a very aggressive line, but that was copied by both John Cole and Andrew Whitehead as we head into turn one there. John Cole runs a little bit wide though. That's exactly what Matt Daley wants to see. That might allow Matt Daley to swoop past. It doesn't allow him to swoop past, but he's certainly up there putting pressure on him. John Cole trying to leave as little room as possible. Flames on the overrun for John Cole's 156 GTA there, but they are near enough side by side. Andrew Whitehead soon to be involved in this as well. John Cole's going to have to put an almighty defensive drive there to keep Matt Daley at bay from this position now. Matt Daley has the inside line. What can he do on the braking? What he can do is brake a little bit earlier than John Cole, allowing John Cole to still keep the position for the time being. Very nice defensive driving from John Cole so far in race 2. Still has that P2. He's totally focused his sights on Matt Daley behind him now. Has completely ignoring Andrew Harby in the lead for the time being, because that is not what is most important to him right now. What is most important is the fact that he's about to lose out on P3 and potentially he's about to lose out on P2 and potentially P3 as well. So Andrew White actually getting past Matt Daley as well. So just like John Cole did, an unexpected move from Andrew White sees him past Matt Daley, but Matt Daley gets the better exit out of the final corner and should be swooping past Andrew Whitehead in just a moment in time now. As there's contact between John Cole and Andrew Whitehead, that upset the back end of John Cole's car just a little bit, but wasn't too much to right home that really in terms of damage and or mistakes. But there's a big mistake for Matt Daley. Matt Daley goes off at turn 1. That is huge. That is absolutely monumental for him there. He is very lucky to keep it out of a wall there, but has lost out on so much time. Now down into P6 already. He might be soon under pressure from Paul Millman, leading that AM race at the moment then in P7. Well done to Paul Millman. He looked quite racy at Donington this time last year. In the second half of the year's running rather, and seems to be doing that again, but Matt Daley now going to P9. This race has come undone for him in just the blink of an eye really. Andrew Harby then leading this race. That will be for John Cole, I'm sure, some quite welcome news. Only about a second and a half off Andrew Harby now. He can now focus his efforts on pushing back towards Andrew Harby now. Andrew Whitehead obviously still hot on his heels, but a little bit of breathing room between the two. So as we compare previous lap times, Andrew Harby 109.1, about 0.8 of a second clear. In fact, no, it's about 1.8 seconds clear of John Cole rather. In fact, no, it's changed once again because we have just crossed the line. John Cole about 0.6 of a second quicker on the previous lap, going purple sector 2, 25.1 is blistering through sector 2. But who was just taking that from him? Mike Hilton has just taken that from him. 25.14 there. To his 25.17, so the fuel is starting to get lighter already, and we're starting to see the pace drop down. Is that the ground I can see through that? That's the ground that I can see through that car. 156s are of course prone to a little bit of corrosion, and it seems to be that John Cole's car, but John Cole's car quite a bit of corrosion there. The floor pan is missing, is the word that I would use for that one. It might be an OEC failure, sorry for that job, but as we see then, it is John Cole who has the upper hand in terms of pace on both Andrew Whitehead and Andrew Harby, so this looks to be a fairly good situation for him in P2 at the moment. Mr. Will Harper is pretty much on pace with leaders as well, so let's see what he can do in this race, although he'll be under pressure from Rob Whitney. Rob Whitney also a very nice turn of pace, a 109.4 on the previous lap, and looks to be someone's had a fairly substantial accident. I believe that was Jack Hodson, although it wasn't quite as bad as the system made it out to be there. He's still running alongside John Baker, and he's not running alongside John Baker, rather he's running alongside Mike Hilton and Steve Knight there. Mike Hilton obviously having quite a bit of pace underneath him, going purple in sector 2, looking to find a way past Jack Hodson now. There's actually also a bit of a battle forming down in P7. Well, there was, but it looks like might have formed, they might have passed already as Paul Millen runs wide, goes onto the grass there. Matt Daley gets past, as does Alan Matthews. And Matthews and Matt Daley soon to be battling as they were in race 1, but for P7 this time around. Alan Matthews in P8, obviously not a race to remember for him in comparison. In fact, no, both races not going Alan Matthews' way this evening. What a shame for him that it has played out the way that it has. But we'll go on board with John Baker, who is very close behind Rosie Hodgson here. Of course, this is now a four-way battle for the lead of the AM race, which could be forming until the end of this race. Paul Millman, followed by Guy Swarbrick. It looks like Guy Swarbrick certainly has the upper hand in terms of pace on that previous lap. He was about a second quicker, although in terms of absolute best, they are near enough neck and neck. So let's see how that battle develops now. Likewise for these two, will they gang up and then perform a bit of a train line sort of lead of the pro race? Let's find out. Andrew Harvey still leading them, but only by about half a second. John Cole has now started to eat away into that gap in front of him. 27.1 through second one, purple second one then on that previous lap, and near enough matches it on this lap as well. But Andrew Wyatt takes that purple sector away from him actually on this lap as well. So Andrew Wyatt certainly doesn't want to be forgotten at this stage of the race. We've still got over 50 minutes to go in this race, so it's anyone's game really. These reverse speed races can turn on their head in the front of the eye, as we saw for Matt Daley, as we saw for Alan Matthews earlier on. But it is only about a tenth of a second separating John Cole and Andrew Harvey now. John Cole has the inside line, so he's set up quite nicely for this penultimate corner. Who's going to be later on the brakes? John Cole likes to go late on the brakes, but it is Andrew Harvey with a very nice defensive keeping people on for the time being. For how long it looks like John Cole has the man, has the benefit, has the advantage on the exit of the final corner there, has the inside line for turn 1 as well, although as we've seen with Andrew Whitehead there, maybe the inside line not the most ideal line. Not the ideal racing line really, and that seems to be the case really, because John Cole up into P1, Andrew Wyatt up into P2 as well, gets past Andrew Harvey as well. Andrew Harvey losing out big time in sector 1 here on this lap then. It might be the case that we start to see Andrew Wyatt starting to put pressure on John Cole as well. So the lead of this race is certainly up in the air right now. Let's carry on with them as we follow them through this lap. Mr. Will Harper improving behind them as well, but there's still a few seconds off. Andrew Harvey losing out quite a lot in that lap. Then he was over a second slower than anyone else on the previous lap. So yes, not ideal for Andrew Harvey that previous lap, and as a result of that, he is now in P, still on the podium, still can be fairly happy with that, but is down in P3 for the time being. As we come towards the end of this lap, a very short lap here at Donington, of course. The second that you just start talking about sector 1, you're getting ready to go through sector 1 once again. So here we go, heading through sector 1 at Donington with John Cole in the lead, Andrew Whitehead in second place, and Andrew Harvey in third place. Will Harper followed very closely behind by Rob Whitney, having a very nice race, those two. They're relatively quiet but enjoyable battle, I am sure, between the two. As we see Mike Hilton getting past John Baker, and Mike Hilton obviously quite a bit of pace underneath him, wanting to recover a few positions if he can. Now, interestingly, we see that Andrew Harvey is running the soft compound tyre, and that might be what is making a difference here. At this halfway stage in the race, potentially we are starting to see those soft tyres struggle just a little bit and have a bit of a pace disadvantage in comparison to the mediums, which are longer lasting and will go further into this race. As it looks like under braking, Andrew Wyatt out of nowhere then, we were just on the wrong camera angle really. Andrew Wyatt takes P1 away from John Cole, and the door was left open for him, and he's able to take P1 away there. Leading this race for the time being then is Andrew Whitehead, but for how long is that? Because John Cole might be starting to put the pressure back on him with Andrew Harvey following as well as he can on those soft tyres behind. Rob Whitney also on the soft tyre, doing a nice job of following Will Harper on the mediums, but a little bit more of a mixed compound in this race, so potentially actually out of line. Apologies, there's only two drivers running the soft compound tyre. But obviously between race 1 and race 2, drivers are free to change compound if they feel that is necessary. So it does have quite an interesting effect on strategy between the regular race and the reverse grid race. Obviously in the reverse grid race you expect to be pushing the car just that little bit more with you starting not based on qualifying position. You expect to be anticipating a little bit of battling and working the car a little bit harder, and as a result you want to use harder compound tyres. It looks to be that Andrew Wyatt is feeling fairly comfortable and building a little bit of a gap in the lead at the moment. Elsewhere on track then, it looks like everyone else has kind of found the rhythm and found where they are comfortable on track, as there's no intensely close battles like we've seen so far this evening, really. Nothing within a couple of tenths of each other, but for how long is that? Because John Cole is obviously very close behind now, and Andrew Harvey certainly don't count him out yet. A collision between the two drivers in the lead could see him back in the lead in just a second's time. You never know what's going to happen as we head up into the likes of the heavy braking zone at turn 1 here at Donington. It is still Andrew Whitehead in the lead, taking that interesting line that is echoed by John Cole and Andrew Harvey now, as we see John Cole now only about half a second behind there, so whiffing away that gap just a little bit now under half a second. Can he sustain that heading through this lap? I'm not entirely sure, because it looks to be that at the moment out on track Andrew Whitehead has the upper hand. Although that is also a good line, because the timing system has updated from when I last checked it, obviously with us starting a new lap, and it is on the previous lap. John Cole, who actually has the upper hand by a couple of tenths of a second, although Andrew Whitehead has put in a very nice time in Sector 1 here, about a tenth clear of John Cole, a 27.1 in Sector 1 for Andrew Whitehead. And Andrew Harvey is pretty much matching John Cole on pace at the moment. Let's see what is going on further down the order. Then it is going to be Rosie Hodgson and Steve Knight. Rosie Hodgson losing out on those battles earlier on then. Obviously getting involved in quite a few interesting battles, particularly with Guy Strawbrick, but after an incident earlier on, Guy Strawbrick able to kind of fight back and work his way up to P10, but that has not been the case, unfortunately, for Rosie. So let's see what she can do as we enter the final 10 minutes of this race now. John Cole still achingly close by about half a second here. That time still just ever so slightly being whittled down, but for how long can he sustain this kind of advantage that he's got? And more importantly, he needs to build that advantage if he wants to find a way past, because you need quite a delta in order to get past here at Donington. But it looks like that question may have been answered. He's found another 2 tenths heading through Sector 2 now, so obviously certainly has the pace to lead this race. He's just going to find a way past Andrew Whitehead. And that 2 tenths of a second gap still staying pretty much the same here at Donington now as we head down the back straight. A little bit of a dip that brings the cars up to their ultimate top speed here at Donington, around 131 miles an hour, as is the case for, in fact, no one this evening. No, it is, ignore me. Rob Whitney, Matt Daley and Alan Matthews all in 131 mile an hour region. Andrew Whitehead and John Cole about 130 miles an hour at their top speed at the moment, with an ambient temperature of 26 degrees, so not entirely useful for naturally aspirated power, if that is what we're running. But here we are, once again. Not entirely sure on the power plant. I believe it's a twin spark, but yes, and 36 degree track temperature as well, so not the worst track temperatures that we've ever seen. It should give quite a nice bit of grip at the start of the stint for the drivers, but obviously we're coming to the end of that now, so we may start to see the ill effects of that as we see the driver rowing through the sequential gears in this 156 GTA, all race prepped, of course, only about 1200 kilos, 270 horsepower, the top speed 130 miles an hour, as I mentioned before, so quite the machine, and a good way to add to our portfolio of GTA touring cars for this year's running. Of course, we have the 147 GTA, we have the 156 GTA, we have the Julia GTA M, and then we have the old school GTA 1750, which I will have to remember the actual correct name of. Apologies that I keep calling it the GTA 1750, and I don't believe it is called that anymore, so apologies for that. But yes, quite a variety of cars to be used in this championship, but the cars that we are focusing on right now are the cars of Rob Whitney and Matt Daley. Matt Daley getting past Rob Whitney down the start-finish straight now. He should be able to box him off from there, I think. Oh no, under braking, Rob Whitney is going to fight back for P5 there. If the camera can follow him, that would be absolutely splendid. And he was able to fight back, but going around the outside, hooking it around the outside, Matt Daley was able to take back P5 from Rob Whitney. Rob Whitney now under pressure from winning the list as well, so it looks to be that Rob Whitney's going to lose out potentially those soft tyres coming to the end of the usable window now, and we're starting to see the ill effects of that for him as we see winning list looking for a move around the outside, potentially has the inside line for the next corner there, and under braking, getting the move done. Well done to Willingness for a fairly decisive move there. Rob Whitney now side by side with Alan Matthews, now down into P8 for Rob Whitney, from P5 to P8. Not the way he wanted this lap to start, I am sure, but potentially that soft tyre just not doing any favours for him, really. As we see, actually we're starting to see a couple of the gaps close down now. There's only a few tenths of a second, actually a bit more than a few tenths of a second, but that gap is closing between Mike Hilton and Guy Scrubbins. Mike Hilton fighting his way through the order with that little bit of extra pace that he's got at the moment. I believe he is actually who is on top in terms of sector 2. I assume it is still him for the time being. Correct me if I am. Oh no, I am wrong. It is Matt Daley who's currently on top in sector 2 with a 25 flat. So Matt Daley up into P5 after a pretty miserable start to this race, finds himself back up into P5 and should be adding to that nice points haul that he got in race 1. Leading the AM race at the moment then, it is Paul Millman once again. This will be a fairly blockbuster weekend for him, all important in the championship. I can't believe we're already a fifth of the way into the championship, 3 rounds into the 15 rounds that we have for the first half of 2022, this GTA Championship. So every weekend counts, and Paul Millman certainly made the most of this weekend here at Donington, so well done to him for 2 very well executed races by the looks of things. As we see, Matt Daley has gone purple in Sector 1, 27.002, 2 thousandths of a second above the 27-second mark. That is a fairly impressive Sector 1, it must be said. He comes across the line now to complete this lap, and will he take the fastest lap of this race? He does take the fastest lap of this race on that lap there. Does he? Am I mistaken? I am not mistaken. That is the fastest lap of the race so far for Matt Daley with that electric Sector 1, it must be said. And Andrew Wyatt has broken away from John Cole as well. The previous lap about a second faster than John Cole, just that one lap, so that he's building himself up a nice gap. He wants to carry on with that same momentum at that same pace, and he should be relatively comfortable, should be in a good position in the next couple of minutes as we come to the closing stages of this race now. It is near enough neck and neck between Will Inglis and and Alan Matthews, rather, as they are side by side, near enough, rubbing wheels together. Will Inglis has the inside line there to box off Alan Matthews, just about keeping his car in front as we get ready for the back straight now. Will Alan Matthews think about a move or on the braking? It's certainly not unheard of. We know Alan Matthews and Will Inglis know how to battle each other well. You just have to go back to any of the touring car runnings from last year, and there's usually a brilliant battle involving either Will Inglis, Alan Matthews, Barry Clayton or Rob Whitney. They were, for me, one of the highlights of last year. Just some excellent racing in the midfield of these series, and we have another fastest lap there, a 108 flat that time around for Matt Daley. So he is really picking up the pace now, trying to find a way to get ever closer to Mr. Will Harper up in front in P4. Once again, another fairly quiet race for Will Harper there. Well, no, forgive me. This has been a fairly quiet race for Mr. Will Harper up into P4, has pretty much been comfortable there ever since. Not too close, not too far away from any of the cars. The exactly the type of race he needs if he wants to gain some good points. But Alan Matthews finding a way back past Will Inglis round the outside this time, but Will Inglis looking ready to fight back. Alan Matthews has the inside line, and Will Inglis is going to follow him through that, about 0.3 of a second, separating these drivers now as we head down the back straight once again. Such a short lap here at Donington. It is hard to I'm sure the drivers are getting really quite familiar with Donington now. Obviously, probably one of the highest lap counts that we have on the calendar. We've done nearly 20 laps of this race already. In fact, we've now just crossed over to 20 laps. And it is Alan Matthews who still ekes out in front of Will Inglis just about for the time being. But Will Inglis will have that all-important outside line, but under braking, Alan Matthews can be very brave under braking to block off Will Inglis on this lap. But Will Inglis looking for a way around the outside there. Still fighting as we head through Sector 2 then, as it looks like Will Inglis still trying to find a way past, but every time Alan Matthews just positions his car absolutely perfectly to tempt Will Inglis into a move, but block him off just in the nick of time. Will he do the exact same thing again? Yes, he does. Will Inglis looking up the outside there, but it wasn't going to work because Alan Matthews knows he's coming and knows his plan, looking at his rear view mirrors intently, I am sure. But what we've seen here is this battling has slowed these two drivers down, but Rob Whitney right back up into contention, and there's a big error for both Rob Whitney and Will Inglis. Luckily, no one's spinning off or getting involved in a collision, but Will just has to drop right back off Alan Matthews by about 2 seconds. Rob Whitney, I imagine with some form of sympathy as well, we would call it a sympathy spin, maybe that was a bit of a sympathy slide off the circuit, if you will, I don't know, but he's followed Willis off and has dropped back a little bit as well. A little bit of commentator's curse for those two drivers there, so I apologise for that one. And as we will go back on board with Andrew Whitehead leading this race. He was P2 in qualifying at the start of the evening. Took home another P2 as well, and is happy to be leading this race at the moment, I am sure. It's been a very well executed race for him. It looked quite comfortable ever since he got past John Cole. He was able to keep the nose clean when a few other drivers got involved in some incidents, and as a result of that, he is enjoying the lead of this race at the moment. But we are, imagine, going to go on board with. Let's go on board with Will Inglis to see what his pace is like at the moment, how it can improve in comparison to Alan Matthews in front of him. He was a few seconds slower on that previous lap, obviously, owing to that incident that he got embroiled in. Rob Whitney still on those soft tyres. I'm quite impressed with both Andrew Harvey and Rob Whitney, who have been able to make these soft tyre work as well as they have. It looks like Andrew Harvey's starting to drop off in terms of pace now, quite comfortably in the 110s at this point in the race, as is the same situation for Rob Whitney at this point in time by the looks of things. We'll see how that changes as he crosses the line once again, but Will Inglis now back up to pace, 109.4, ever so slightly quicker than Alan Matthews at this stage in the race, but the timer has run out. This is now the second to last lap of this race, and he's going to have to pray for a bit of an error, I am sure, if he wants to get back past Alan Matthews. It's certainly not unheard of, but with a 2-second delta and only 2 laps to go, he's going to have to put in quite a shift if he wants to be back in that battle for P6. Andrew Whitehead still leading fairly comfortably then at this point in time. John Cole also doing quite a nice job in P2 as well. Broke away from Andrew Harvey on those soft tyres and has been driving a fairly comfortable race for the past 5 or 10 minutes. So well done to him for that. I thought it was Paul Millman and Rob Whitney go for a bit of a battle there, but I saw a 2 and thought it was a 3. We're now on the final lap of this race, so we're going to be joining Andrew Whitehead in just a moment's time. In fact, we'll go on board with him now as he heads through turn 1 for the final time this evening in the 156 GTAs. Of course, not the final time for the championship, but the last time we will see the 156 GTAs at Donington is this evening towards the end of race 2. It's still Andrew Whitehead leading this race as he heads into sector 2 now. Speed trap 132 miles an hour for Andrew Whitehead. He has really turned up the heat, so to speak, as the fuel load has gotten lighter. Previous lap a 1 minute 8.8. His best lap of 1 minute 8.3, so has demonstrated some excellent pace this evening. As Matt Daley gets past Will Harper, I thought that might happen at some point this evening, as Will Harper still fighting back for it. They are side by side, but I'm going to have to go on board with Andrew Whitehead for just a moment as Will Harper takes the position back, but we're going to watch Andrew Whitehead come across the line now. Will Harper still in P4 for the time being, but they are near enough neck and neck by the looks of things. It is P1 for Andrew Whitehead. In just a moment's time, P1 for Andrew Whitehead. But these are now side by side as we head into the ultimate corner, under braking then. It is Matt Daley who has the inside line. I think that was the all-important inside line there. Contact between the two as they are headed into the ultimate corner. It's going to be Matt Daley who takes P4, Will Harper P5 in the end. Very closely fought between those two drivers. John Cole also taking P2 and Andrew Harvey taking home P3. Well done to him for that. I mentioned Will Inglis was going to have to hope for a bit of an error there, and I think his prayers have just been answered. Takes P6 across the line at the end there. I'm not sure what happened to Alan Matthews rather, but Alan Matthews comes across the line P7. After all that I said, that 2-second gap is going to be quite hard to whittle down. It looks to be that it came to a close right across the finish line there. Well done to those two drivers for such an exciting race. Rob Whitney coming home in P8. Well done to bringing that car home on the soft tyres there. Paul Millman coming home P9. Mike Hilton finishing P10 in the end. He's had quite an interesting race to watch, actually seeing his pace there climbing his way back up through the order. Paul Millman, of course, taking the lead of the AM race, taking the victory in the AM race 2 times in a row. So well done to you for that. Guy Strawberry coming home P2 in AM then, running P11 there. Jack Hodson rather, P12. John Baker P13, Rosie Hodson P14, and Steve Knight P15 Are we going to see some victory donuts from? I'm expecting we're going to see some victory donuts from either Andrew Whitehead or Matt Daley. I'm hoping I am not disappointed here as we see Matt Daley weaving down the back straight there. That is a good sign, I think it is, as we see Andrew Whitehead actually returning to the pits immediately. But it is Matt Daley also returning to the pits. I saw the grid lines and I thought we were going to be in for a treat in terms of some donuts. But never mind. It has been an exciting weekend, even without some donuts to celebrate. So, I hope you've very much enjoyed watching these 156 GTAs race their way around Donington this evening. Well done to Andrew Whitehead for the victory in race 1 and Matt Daley for the victory in... Oh, no, apologies. Matt Daley for the victory in race 1 and Andrew Whitehead for the victory in race 2. I will catch you in a fortnight's time when we hop back in to the classic car for some classic racing action. Until then, I will catch you later. Thank you very much for following along with us.